All right, let's get right into it. You've probably noticed that sometime around 2021, online scams just got way scarier. We're going to trace this bizarre story of how a major political crackdown in China, of all things, accidentally created and then unleashed this perfected industrial-scale scam industry on, well, the rest of us.
Now, for years, we all kind of got used to the classic scams, right? The Nigerian prince emails that were almost a joke, the fake IRS agent demanding iTunes gift cards. They were annoying for sure, but you could spot them a mile away. But the stuff we're seeing now, it's a whole different beast. It's devastating. We're talking about life-altering amounts of money. The median victim loses around $100,000. And get this, the targets aren't just the elderly anymore. They're young, tech-savvy people like you and me.
Usually scams kind of evolve over time, you know? They get a little smarter, and then we get a little smarter, and the authorities have time to warn everybody. But not this one. This thing just appeared, almost overnight, already in its most perfect, most lethal form. It's like it was cooked up in some secret lab and then just unleashed on the world. So the question is, where on earth did it come from?
So to crack this mystery, you've got to do what they always say, right? Follow the money. And that's exactly what a team of researchers set out to do. And the big breakthrough? It came from a team at UT Austin. They started digging through thousands and thousands of crypto transactions from victims. And what they uncovered? Well, it completely changed the story. See, if you only looked at US crypto exchanges, it looked like this scam just popped into existence out of nowhere in 2021. But that, it turns out, was not the whole picture. Not even close.
The data showed something pretty mind-blowing. Turns out, before 2021, this exact same scam had been running for years. But here's the twist. It wasn't global at all. It was aimed almost exclusively at Chinese victims. And it was only active during China's business hours. Then, like a switch was flipped, it went global, 24/7, targeting North America, Europe, everywhere. So the scam wasn't new. It was just redirected. The question is why?
And to get the answer to that, we actually have to go way back. I'm talking 75 years, to understand the really complicated history between China and its powerful organized crime syndicates, the triads.
Okay, so quick history lesson. When the Communist Party took over in 1949, the triads basically fled the mainland. They set up shop in places like Hong Kong and, critically, Macau, which was this Portuguese colony with legal casinos. Perfect for them. For decades, they did great. But then, in 1999, Macau was handed back to China. Everyone, and I mean everyone, expected Beijing to just crush them. But that's not what happened. Instead of crushing them, Beijing basically offered them a deal. See, China had this grand vision to turn Macau into the gambling capital of the world. But they had a huge problem. Gambling debts from mainland citizens weren't legally enforceable back home. So what do? Well, you outsource the job to the people who are, let's just say, very good at collecting debts.
And just like that, you have this system that was, honestly, a win-win-win for everybody involved. The triads, now kind of rebranded as junket operators, would fly these wealthy Chinese high rollers to Macau, front them the chips, and then make sure the casinos got paid. So the casinos got low-risk, high-paying customers, the triads made an absolute fortune, and Beijing got this booming economy in Macau while keeping organized crime contained and, in a weird way, employed.
And we're not talking small-time stuff here. The scale of this was just staggering. By 2019, Macau's gambling revenue was 3 times bigger than Las Vegas, triple, and that was almost all thanks to these VIP junkets. It was an unbelievably profitable system, all built on this very shaky alliance between the government and organized crime.
But as you can probably guess, this golden era wasn't going to last forever. In fact, it was about to come to a very sudden, very dramatic end. And that would force these criminal groups to find a whole new line of work.
So what changed? Well, Xi Jinping came to power, and with him came this massive anti-corruption campaign. And he looked at this Macau system and saw it for exactly what it was, a giant pipeline for corrupt officials and shady business people to wash their money and sneak it out of China. For him, the truce was over.
So in 2021, Beijing just dismantled the whole system. Boom, it was gone. Kicked out of Macau, the triads had to move their whole casino operations somewhere else. They went to these unstable, basically lawless regions in Southeast Asia, like parts of Myanmar and Cambodia. They were all ready to rebuild their empire there, but then the pandemic hit, and China's borders slammed shut, cutting them off from all their customers.
So now, just picture this. You're a massive criminal organization. You have all this infrastructure, all these employees, and 0 customers. You're desperate. So they had to pivot. And they pivoted from gambling to something else they could do entirely online, scamming. And they didn't just start doing it. They took it and perfected it into an art form.
The method they perfected is called pig butchering. And yeah, the name is as grim as it sounds. The idea is to fatten up a victim, the pig, by building a really deep, genuine-seeming relationship over weeks, sometimes even months. All of it is designed to set them up for one massive financial butchering at the end. It's the ultimate long con, and it is terrifyingly effective.
And the process itself is just a masterclass in psychological manipulation. It'll start with something so innocent, like a wrong number text message. "Oh, sorry, is this Jessica?" And from there, the scammer just builds a friendship. They spend weeks, maybe months, getting to know you, your hobbies, your dreams, your fears. They'll even introduce you to a can't-miss crypto investment, let you put in a little bit of money, and then let you withdraw a profit just to prove it's real. But once they know they have your complete trust, that's when they push you to invest your life savings. And then, poof, they're gone. And so is your money.
And if you think that's bad, this is where the story gets even darker. The people on the other end of the line, the scammers themselves, a huge number of them are victims too. They're people who were tricked with fake job offers in China, trafficked across the border into these compounds in places like Myanmar, and then had their passports taken away. They're forced to work 16-hour days, running these scams, essentially as modern-day slaves.
Okay, so let's recap. You've got this massive, organized criminal network. You've got a perfected, psychologically devastating scam. And you've got a huge, captive workforce to run it. The whole machine was built. It just needed one last push to point it straight at us.
And that final push came from Beijing. They finally got sick of their own citizens being the primary victims of these scams. So in 2021, they did 2 things. First, they banned cryptocurrency, which was the main way these operations got paid. And second, they put a ton of pressure on Myanmar's government to start raiding these scam compounds.
And I just have to repeat the scale here because it's unbelievable. The United Nations estimates that as many as 300,000 people are trapped in these compounds, most of them against their will. It's a massive humanitarian crisis that is literally fueling a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise.
And that's how it all connects. Beijing cracks down and suddenly the triad's main market, the Chinese people, dries up. But they didn't shut down their incredibly efficient, massive scamming operation. Oh no. They just turned it around and pointed it at a brand new target, a wealthy and completely unprepared target, the West. The problem wasn't solved, it was just exported.
Which leaves us with a really tough question, doesn't it? For 75 years, every time there's a crackdown, it just pushes these criminal networks into some other lawless corner of the world, where they often come back even stronger and more dangerous. So if just trying to shut them down only moves the problem from one country to the next, what in the world does a real solution even look like?